Hey everybody, it's Cory from Cory Baker Filmmaker, and I just saw First Man. Written by Josh Singer, based off the original book by James R. Hansen, and directed by Damien Chazelle. So I caught this movie at Regal LA Live, and a big reason why I decided to go to Regal LA Live for this particular showing of First Man was because I wanted to make sure that I saw it in the best sound, the best projection, the best everything that I possibly could. And I didn't want to mess around with a new Damien Chazelle movie. I'm a big fan of Damien Chazelle, and I wanted to make sure that I did this right. So I went to the Regal LA Live. I paid full fare. I mean, Tuesday full fare, which is still discounted, and yep, everything the way that it's supposed to be. Projection on point, sound on point, comfortable chairs. If you are going to go see a big, huge blockbuster such as First Man, you definitely want to go to a place like Regal LA Live to see it. So First Man, it's about Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon, and I really enjoyed the flick. I mean, it goes a little bit deeper than just sort of the Apollo mission, which was the actual one that landed on the moon, but talking about like Gemini and all the things that have led NASA from sort of falling behind in the space race to becoming the ultimate winner in the space race, and Neil Armstrong being a big part of that happening. We get Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong, and we have Claire Foy as his wife, Janet Armstrong. In addition, we have a bunch of other known names in this. I saw Pablo Schreiber again. I've talked about him a lot in these reviews. I never imagined that it would become such a touchstone, but it was so nice to see him in there. Also in this movie was Jason Clarke, Kyle Chandler, and Cory Stoll. And I'll get into casting a little bit, but it was a good, strong cast with a lot of good people in good places. But that being said, I feel like this movie could have done a little bit better if it had different people in different roles. Now I talked just last week's episode on A Star Is Born about like sort of the Tom Hanks effect and Lady Gaga falling into that, where I can't stop seeing the person that it is. And with someone like Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong, it's hard for me to stop thinking about cool, good-looking, hip and with it Ryan Gosling, and I kind of get lost in the whole thing. I was actually thinking an interesting bit of alternative casting instead of Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong. So take this, hold on. It's a little bit of a radical idea, and I know that realistically this probably wouldn't work, but instead of Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong, how about Jesse Plemons instead? I know that Jesse Plemons isn't the type of name on the top of the call sheet that's going to make people go see this movie. Like it's not the star like Ryan Gosling is, but I really do think that if you had given somebody like Jesse Plemons the role instead, you would have gotten lost a lot more into the Neil Armstrong story. And it's just, I look at Ryan Gosling and I don't think of an astronaut. I think of like, that super cool friend that everyone I know knows. Like it's not, don't get me wrong. I really love Ryan Gosling. I think that he is a tremendous actor. He's done great work. I just don't, for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to hit in this picture the way that I had hoped it would. And I think that's sort of the overall overarching feeling that I have of this. If I were to make a rank of my top 5 favorite movies, I would put Whiplash in that top 5. And when I saw La La Land, while it wouldn't have made such a heavy ranking as in top 5 all-time movies list, it was very good and I enjoyed it a lot. So I came into First Man with really high expectations, and it was very well done. I'm not trying to like. It sounds like I'm upset with it. I'm not. I enjoyed the movie. I just feel like going back to a touchstone I went in on BlacKkKlansman. Like, if you're a really good movie, you're probably like 8 on the 1 to 10 scale, like an 8 or higher. And it's just the little choices that make a difference as to whether or not you're, closer to 8 or closer to 10. And it can be really hard before you go into a movie to know whether or not those choices are going to end up being closer to 8 or closer to 10. But I think that this one just, it tried a lot of different things, but it just didn't hit the way that it was supposed to. And it's hard to look back on it and say that, but it's sadly true about this one. There were a couple other things that kind of got me about it. One was, I wasn't as crazy about sort of the documentary style thing that they were going through with how they shot it. Now, I can appreciate a documentary style movie, and I like those. There's many that I really enjoy, but this one just felt like it was either not documentary enough, or like it's one of those you have to go all in or not decisions, because to shoot it sort of like a documentary, or to have leanings towards a documentary, but not, because it's not really like like you're following him around all the time, like you're caught up behind the scenes of something. It's shot, it's carried like a traditional movie, but it sort of has these elements of sort of like a documentary style film. I just don't think it worked the way that it was supposed to. It seemed a little bit off. On top of that, I enjoy film. I really do. I love seeing something that's shot on film up on screen. But there was a little bit of a disorientation, to me at least, that was happening. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I fully admit that maybe this is just because I'm more aware of these sort of things working in film, but I didn't much, like, we would go from 35 to 16 millimeter inside of the cockpit of the spacecraft and stuff like that, and then sometimes we're in IMAX, and then sometimes it looks like we're on a GoPro with the wide angle lens already set up and everything like that. It's just, it can be a little disorienting. So we're inside the cockpit, we're going to the moon, and it's in 16, Super 16. And then once we actually get out of the spacecraft and stepping onto the moon, it's in IMAX, like Super 70 or something like that, 70 millimeter. So for me, those little choices were a little disorienting. I almost kind of would wish that the whole thing was shot just on like 35 or 70. If you were just going to do it in IMAX, just shoot the whole fucking thing in 70. But like anytime it switched back and forth and you sort of got like the grainier feel of a 16, as opposed to like the impeccable clarity of a 70 on an IMAX. Like it was little things that it didn't ruin the movie for me, but I just sort of said like, oh, it could have been better. That could have been a better choice. Going back to Cassie for a second, I like I said, Ryan Gosling probably could have been played. It could have been somebody else instead of Ryan Gosling playing the part of Neil Armstrong. And I also think that, and not because she's not a fantastic actor, she didn't do a good job in this role, but Claire Foy doesn't really have a lot to do. And I feel it seems sort of indicative of the time that she's sort of cast aside, and she's not a major player in this whole thing. But I kind of wish that if you would have had a role that didn't have as much to do, you wouldn't give it to somebody who was on the higher end of the spectrum. And again, I know this is for selling the movie. Like you got Ryan Gosling, you got Claire Foy, you're selling the movie. But you could have picked almost any actress to play that role. It wasn't heavy lifting. It wasn't anything outrageous. And I don't know. I feel like you've used up a Claire Foy. And in a similar vein, I just don't get Jason Clarke that much. I mean, I think that he's a fine actor. He's not a exceptional actor. But I also never like, I never walk out going like, wow, you know who really killed this was Jason Clarke. So I mean, like, you could have had somebody in this same mind frame of like how I feel about Jason Clarke in the Claire Foy role, because it wouldn't have really, you didn't need. It's like, I'm going to go duck hunting, so I'm going to bring a tank. Like, you don't need all that. You just need a gun. You just need a regular gun, like a rifle will be fine. You don't need a tank to hunt deer or to hunt duck or something like that. Like, it's just too much. Getting on to the things I really loved, the sound team on this was impeccable. And I think that if you asked around about, like, the directors who really, really care about sound and really care about getting it right on set, making sure that the whole thing feels atmospheric when you go watch it. You know, you're looking at people like Damien Chazelle, you're looking at people like Spielberg, Scorsese, Tarantino, and I've just named 5 of the best directors that we've had in my lifetime. So if you're a director at home watching this, or, you know, wherever you might be watching a YouTube video, think about the sound. Really, really, really think about the sound. Because a great sound team is not as hard to find as, you know, a great actor. Like, you know, it's very much, it's something you can plan for. And that's what a lot of the names that I just mentioned do. They plan really well. They plan ahead. They think about how they're going to have to create the final product. And picking an aces sound team has worked out tremendously well for all of these filmmakers. If you're a young filmmaker, think about sound. Just think about it right up front. Don't leave it till the last thing. Don't say, I only have $100 a day for sound. Like, that's not, you're not gonna work out as well as you're not gonna become Damien Chazelle. You're not gonna become Scorsese. You're not gonna become Tarantino if you react that way to half of the picture. And the sound in First Man, just everywhere, from the recording of the sound to the sound design, the sound mixing, the editing, everything like that. I think a advantage to the sound team on First Man is that you get a lot of people in spacesuits, so you have the microphone like built into the thing, so you don't have to like wire them the same you would have to do otherwise. But at the same time, it's harder to keep them cool, and it's hard. You got to pump oxygen into the thing, so it would probably be a really difficult balancing act between trying to get clean sound with a microphone that is allowed to, for narrative purposes, be right in front of their face, but I don't know, just sound team, editing team, everybody there, great, fantastic job, aces. One last thought I had, and this is, again, like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. I know it sounds like I'm just complaining, but I really am not. I enjoyed this thing a lot. I just wish that, I think that Damien Chazelle might be the type of director that is better suited to directing the work that he writes as opposed to doing somebody else's script. And I didn't read the actual script, but, you know, I saw the movie and I thought Josh Singer did a tremendous job. I mean, Josh Singer is a really good writer, and he has a lot of credits that I really enjoyed. I mean, I loved his work on The West Wing. I thought The Post was really well done, and in Spotlight, I mean, he's got good credits and good final products. I just some people, like, it's just easier if they were writing the movie they were directing. Some directors just need that, and I feel like maybe Damien Chazelle is in that same boat. He just needs to write what he's directing, because maybe he'll be more, I don't know, it's not like he wasn't invested in this, but maybe he'll be more invested in something he writes himself. It's hard to quite tell, but there seems to be some sort of miss between where the script goes into development from this movie as opposed to Whiplash or La La Land. One final thing that I really enjoyed, the attention to detail that was paid to like the level of the spacecrafts and the little ancillary things, like just the fact that in the 60s, a spacecraft, it was still analog as opposed to like our digital world where like, you know, we have Facebook on our goddamn phones. Like we can open up the Facebook app and talk to anybody in the entire world who has Facebook, or, you know, you could find the answer to any question. Like you couldn't go to the library. You had to, if you were in the 60s, you had to go to the library and study. And now I can find out what the capital of Cameroon is immediately just by talking to Google. So that being said, I loved all the little touches of sort of like jinky analog dials and the way that you're able to build tension with these little things too. Like there was the part where they're spinning right at the beginning of the movie, and you see the dial going up, and it's, you know, going 90, 100, 200, 260, 300. It's maxing out over on the edge over at 360. And we know Neil Armstrong is living. We know that he survives this moment. So there's not like a tension that's drawn from that, but there is a tension just watching it. Just watching the analog dial move along and not knowing what 90 or 150 or 170 necessarily means to what's going on right now, but knowing that the number rising is causing tension and is making you worry about whether or not Neil Armstrong is going to survive these moments. That's just wonderful. A wonderful job done by everybody. It's just, and the feel of like looking out these little tiny windows and just seeing fragments of a sky going past, or the darkening of, you know, from our atmosphere into outer space. Little things like that, like you know, you're used to driving around the freeways in your car with a big windshield and seeing everything and looking around and being able to see cars coming up on you and looking through your mirror in the back. There's one little tiny mirror or little tiny window right here by which the astronauts look out. And there's one little tiny mirror that Ryan Gosling has at one point that goes flying all over the place. Like, it's just, I don't know, really, it made me feel claustrophobic in a theater, in a huge theater. So very well done by everybody. Do you know what everybody's favorite part about going to the moon is? The leaderboard! This is yet another tick for Regal LA Live. We've already done the featurette. That's way long ago. But I don't know. At this point, you know, maybe at 50 or something like that, I do something else. I don't know. We're coming up on 20, but I don't think that every 10 requires a short film. But we'll see. We'll see. If there's a clamoring for this sort of thing, I'll figure out a way to make other things happen. Onto the movie leaderboard. Again, the part that really kills me is that I know just going in that a movie isn't necessarily going to succeed just because you go into the movie before you plan it and say, I think I got all the parts necessary to make a really great flick. And then you go on set and you work through all the problems and things come up and you're putting out fires and everything like that. And you're looking at dailies and you're looking at things as you shoot them. You just go, oh my God, this is going to be incredible. And then you get into the editing room and you start putting it together. And that's when you start noticing things that you didn't notice on set or you didn't notice before. And, you know, maybe it was the actor that you, not necessarily in the case of this one, but maybe it was the actor that you thought was a no doubt about it, surefire home run is not giving you everything you possibly need. It's so outrageously difficult to make a movie. Just look at a bad movie and know that all the same love and care that goes into a good movie was put into this one. I mean, obviously you can hire bad people. You can not know what you're doing, but Like, for the most part, bad movies and good movies at like a major studio level are all done the same way by people who know what they're doing. And to have a good one is incredibly tough, regardless of whether or not you're Tarantino or Damien Chazelle or anything like that. That being said, this is, of the 3 Damien Chazelle movies I've now seen, this is third on the list. It's almost like saying it's my least favorite slice of pizza, because it's all pizza, and I don't know why you complain. But I will give First Man an 8.3. Yeah, it's a very enjoyable movie, but I don't think it's... When we look back on Damien Chazelle, First Man won't be one of the things that we say right away. We'll talk about Whiplash, we'll talk about La La Land, we'll talk about other things that come later, I'm sure. But First Man's just on the periphery of the cut. That being said, I do think that it's worthy of being nominated for many Academy Awards. It's definitely a Best Picture nominee. I doubt it's a winner. It's a directing nominee. I doubt it's a winner. It's a sound nominee, both like mixing and editing. And it could win those. I don't know. It's a little early to ballpark that sort of thing. But I think that the cinematography, it would be up there. It's a very, very well done movie. It falls flat just a couple times, and it's upsetting. Anyway, that's it for me. If you want more, you can go to my website, CoryBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoryBakerFilm, at LegendsCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to say something to me, do it in the comments below. I will answer every single comment. And yeah, that's about it. Share it with your friends. Let them know if they're like on the fence about seeing First Man. Say like, yeah, it's really good. Cory said it's really good. Here's his review. Yeah, so that's about it. Anyway, if you excuse me, I have to go to the moon.